The fluorescent lights of the conference room felt like spotlights burning into my skin as Marcus Chen, the CEO of Chen Digital Marketing, pulled me into his arms in front of 47 employees, 3 board members, and the woman I thought I'd spend forever hiding from, his fiancée. His lips found mine with a desperate urgency that made the world tilt on its axis, and in that single moment, every secret glance, every stolen touch, every whispered promise in darkened hallways came crashing into the harsh light of reality. I heard gasps, the scrape of chairs against polished floors, and somewhere in the chaos, a champagne glass shattering against marble, a sound that perfectly captured how my carefully constructed life was splintering into 1,000 irreparable pieces. My name is Elena Rodriguez, and 6 months ago, I was just another ambitious marketing coordinator trying to make a name for herself in San Francisco's cutthroat tech advertising world. I had student loans that kept me awake at night, a studio apartment in the Tenderloin that smelled perpetually of the Thai restaurant downstairs, and dreams bigger than my circumstances. When I landed the job at Chen Digital, I thought I'd won the lottery. The salary was double what I'd been making. The office had a view of the Bay Bridge, and the CEO was the kind of man who made Forbes 30 Under 30 lists look like a participation trophy. Marcus was brilliant, driven, and according to every tech blog and business magazine, engaged to Vivian Lancaster, old money, Stanford educated, and so polished she practically reflected light. If you believe in second chances, in love that refuses to stay hidden, and in stories that remind us we're all beautifully flawed and human, please hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything, and it helps me bring you more stories that touch the heart and stir the soul. I never meant to fall for him. That's what everyone says, isn't it? But it's the truth. Those first few months, I kept my head down, exceeded every expectation, and stayed late perfecting presentations that would have been good enough at 5 o'clock but became exceptional at midnight. Marcus noticed. He started stopping by my desk with questions that could have been emails, lingering during team meetings to hear my ideas, assigning me to projects that put us in close proximity. I told myself it was professional recognition, that I was reading too much into his attention because I was lonely and he was extraordinary. Then came the Philadelphia conference. We'd been sent to pitch a potential client, a pharmaceutical company looking to rebrand. The presentation went perfectly, and afterward, Marcus suggested we celebrate with dinner. The restaurant was small, intimate, tucked away in a neighborhood where nobody from our world would accidentally wander in. Over wine and conversation that flowed like we'd known each other for years instead of months, he told me about the pressure of being a second-generation Chinese-American CEO, expected to honor his family's legacy while carving his own path. He spoke about Vivian, and my heart sank until I heard the resignation in his voice. Their engagement was a merger, he explained, arranged by families who valued networking over love, tradition over authenticity. She was perfect on paper, he said, but being with her felt like suffocating in a custom-tailored suit. When he looked at me across that table, something shifted. He reached for my hand, and I should have pulled away. I should have reminded him about professional boundaries, about his engagement, about the 100 reasons why this was dangerous. Instead, I laced my fingers through his and felt more alive than I had in years. We walked back to the hotel through streets slick with October rain, and when we reached my room, he kissed me with a tenderness that made me forget every rational thought. That night wrapped in. Hotel sheets with the Philadelphia skyline glittering outside the window, I crossed a line I'd sworn I never would. I became the other woman. Back in San Francisco, we were careful. So careful. We never arrived together, never left together, never let our eyes linger too long in meetings. Our relationship existed in stolen moments. His office after everyone had gone home, my apartment on weekends when he claimed to be at conferences, a cabin in Mendocino where we could pretend the rest of the world didn't exist. He told me he was ending things with Vivian, that he needed time to do it right, to handle the family expectations and business implications. I believed him because I desperately wanted to. Each month that passed, he had another excuse. Her father was sick. They had a charity gala to attend. The timing wasn't right. I swallowed my doubts and convinced myself that love required patience. The weight of the secret began crushing me. I watched him smile for photos with Vivian at company events, his arm around her waist in the same spot where my head had rested hours before. I listened to coworkers gossip about their upcoming wedding, planned for June at some vineyard in Napa, and I wanted to scream that it was all a lie. But I said nothing. I smiled through team lunches where people discussed engagement gifts, nodded sympathetically when his assistant complained about coordinating wedding vendor meetings, and died a little inside every single day. My best friend Jenna knew something was wrong. She'd find me crying in my apartment, clutching my phone, waiting for texts that came less frequently. When she pressed me for details, I deflected. The shame of what I was doing, who I'd become, was too heavy to speak aloud. Then came the annual shareholders meeting. It was supposed to be a routine event. Financial reports, strategic projections, champagne, and networking. Marcus had been distant for 2 weeks, citing end-of-year pressures and family obligations. I'd barely seen him except in passing, and the ache of his absence had become a physical thing lodged in my chest. I arrived at the meeting early, took my seat in the back, and watched the room fill with San Francisco's business elite. Vivian was there, of course, radiant in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my car, playing the role of supportive fiancée to perfection. Marcus began his presentation, outlining the company's growth, our expansion plans, our values. He spoke about authenticity, about building brands that resonated because they were genuine. The irony wasn't lost on me. I watched him command the room with the same confidence that had first drawn me in, and I felt the familiar pull of wanting him, mixed with the growing realization that I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't keep being the woman in the shadows, the secret that shamed us both. I'd made up my mind. After the meeting, I would end it. I would quit my job, leave San Francisco, start over somewhere my heart could heal without constantly breaking. Then he went off script. Mid-presentation, Marcus stopped talking about quarterly projections and market shares. He stood there silent for what felt like an eternity, and I watched something shift in his expression, fear giving way to determination. When he spoke again, his voice was different, raw and unsteady. He said he'd built his career on strategy and careful planning, on making decisions that looked good to others, rather than decisions that felt true to himself. He said he'd been living a lie, and he couldn't do it anymore. The room went deadly quiet. His eyes found mine across that sea of people, and my heart stopped. He stepped down from the podium and walked toward me, and I knew with absolute certainty what was about to happen. I wanted to run, to disappear, to prevent the explosion I saw coming. But I was frozen, paralyzed by the weight of 47 pairs of eyes following his path. When he reached me, he pulled me to my feet, and before I could protest, before I could think, his hands cupped my face, and he kissed me like we were the only two people in the universe. The conference room erupted. I heard Vivian's sharp intake of breath, the scandalized murmurs rippling through the crowd, someone's shocked laughter. When Marcus finally pulled back, his forehead rested against mine, and he whispered words that only I could hear. "I'm sorry it took me this long. I'm sorry I made you wait in the dark. But I love you, Elena Rodriguez, and I'm done pretending I don't." The aftermath was brutal. Vivian left in tears, her father promising lawsuits and destroyed reputations. Board members demanded Marcus's resignation. The tech blogs had a field day. CEO's scandalous office romance revealed, and love triangle rock Silicon Valley firm screamed from every website. My inbox flooded with messages ranging from supportive to viciously cruel. People I'd considered work friends stopped talking to me, their judgment palpable. I became the woman who'd seduced the boss, the homewrecker, the cautionary tale whispered about in break rooms. There were days I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't face the weight of public scrutiny and private shame. But Marcus didn't waver. He stepped down as CEO, took the full blame publicly, and shielded me from as much fallout as he could. He canceled the wedding, faced his family's disappointment, and chose love over legacy. And slowly, Painfully, we began building something real in the light instead of something desperate in the shadows. It wasn't easy. His family took months to speak to him again, and even longer to accept me. I found a new job at a smaller agency where nobody knew my story. We moved to Oakland, got a dog, started over. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever loved someone despite the obstacles, if you believe in the courage it takes to choose authenticity over convenience, please show your support. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to. Hear this message, and let me know in the comments what you thought. Your engagement helps this channel grow and allows me to keep sharing stories that matter. Now, 2 years later, I look back at that conference room moment with complicated feelings. What we did, the affair, the lies, the people we hurt, wasn't noble or admirable. Vivian deserved better than public humiliation, and the employees who looked up to Marcus deserved a leader who practiced the integrity he preached. But I also learned that sometimes love demands we stop living for others' approval and start living for our own truth, even when that truth is messy and imperfect and hurts like hell. Before I finish, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below with just one word that describes how this story made you feel. Whether it's hopeful, conflicted, moved, or anything else, I want to hear from you. Your words create a community here. Marcus and I got married last spring in a small ceremony with only the people who truly supported us. We're not a fairy tale. We're two flawed people who found each other in the worst possible way and somehow built something worth keeping. Every day, I choose to forgive myself for the mistakes I made, for the pain I caused, while never forgetting the lessons learned. Love isn't always simple or clean. Sometimes it explodes in conference rooms and forces you to rebuild your entire life from the ashes. But if you're brave enough to face the fire and wise enough to learn from the burns, you might just find that the life you build after the explosion is more honest, more beautiful, and more yours than anything that came before. And that, I've learned, is worth every scar.